Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Apni kya hona chahiye? So I thought what we'd do today is to start off by showing you a very interesting little clip before we start getting into some really, really interesting things so that we can establish and have a very interesting ada. Because that's what we need to do here, have ada in an interesting way, but a digital ada. So how do we, let's just call up our master of engineering. Okay, here we go. And large screen. Now, what did you think of that? It looks amazing, and that is not science fiction. That happened just this morning in Kolkata, just near Eden Gardens. I saw a woman doing that, and as soon as I saw that, I could only say one thing, Fata Fati. So, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ralph Simon. I'm not Harry Potter's father. Might look like it. As I was coming into the ITC today, some man came up to me and he said, "Are you Harry Potter's father?" I said, "I can't speak to you now. I have to go and have a game of Quidditch at INFOCOM." No, but seriously, I'm not Harry Potter's father. I would like to be. Harry Potter, a very, very wealthy young man today. But what I am, ladies and gentlemen, is I am a screenager. Now, how many of you here in the audience are screenagers? Nobody is a screenager? Nobody is a TV june puro parole? A TV kikida? Who today looks at their phone and looks at TV and their tablet at the same time? Who looks at their phone and the TV at the same time? A few more. I can't believe it. Well, if you are doing that, then you are not a teenager, you are a screenager. Because screenagers is what the future of mobile is all about. It's the multi-screen. It's the phone screen, the TV screen, the tablet screen, and all of those screens are very, very important in terms of developing what one needs to do to have a successful mobile technology industry, innovation industry, and creativity industry. So, Amikub Anandito Je Ami Kolkata Te Esechi, very interested here, and Amikub Kushi to be here in Kolkata. I'd like to thank Didi Purkayasta, the Managing Director and CEO of ABP, for courteously inviting me here. It's my dream come true, as the announcer said. Ever since I was a small boy, I've wanted to come to Kolkata, and to be here when I went down Park Street yesterday and went past Eden Gardens, I saw these crowds and crowds of people, and it clearly these were people who went to see the cricket. And seeing the cricket also, and seeing the success yesterday, particularly of Sachin Darum Keleche, it's really amazing. He deserves a round of applause. He broke 34,000 runs yesterday with his 76. Not bad. 34,000 runs. In fact, he now beats Sunil Gavaskar's record because it took him only 31 tests to get 34,000 runs, or total 2,000, I think it was about 2,400 runs when he was on 32 yesterday, and it took Gavaskar 38 tests. So Sachin is really a superstar, but maybe he's not as good as Manoj Tiwari, who is growing, and obviously someone who's very, very good. Okay, so let's get on with the show. So here I thought I'd start off by showing you now in Kolkata, and certainly in West Bengal, it's very important that we must create our own future. And every thought that you think in creating a future, creating a new road, when I was driving in from the airport, I saw the IT complexes, all the new buildings, and it made me think of this picture, because now is the time that here in West Bengal, all of you professionals, you're at a very important and interesting time where we've got to make sure that the government really supports creativity. Creativity in technology, creativity in software development, creativity in mobile, and creativity thinking of ways you can use gamification that the video games people have used for many years to really develop interesting products. Now, Samuel Goldwyn was the man that invented MGM films many, many years ago, and he said, never make forecasts, especially about the future. And look at this. This is obviously 140 years ago, but the head of Western Union at the time, when presented with what Alexander Graham Bell had invented as the telephone, made this statement. And Western Union decided not to be in the phone business, but a rival company called AT&T did. Western Union got into money transfer, AT&T got into phones, and 100 years later, AT&T are the biggest phone company in North America, and Western Union are now struggling to try and get into mobile commerce and mobile money, just like Professor Junjunwala said earlier this morning. And we'll get into some interesting examples of mobile money and mobile commerce in just a minute. Here's an interesting one. Thomas Edison, who invented the electric light bulb, by the way, 101 times he tried. On the 102nd time, that's when the light worked. The light went on above his head and in the laboratory. Thomas Edison said, the phonograph has no commercial value at all. So many times, if you are an innovator or a creator, you might come up with a brilliant idea and people say, that will never work. That idea won't work. Well, today, that's not necessarily the case. Here's another example. Lord Kelvin, very famous British industrialist, obviously a long time ago, 100 years ago, saying radio has no future. When we saw Mr. Ray from Ericsson showing us about how radio frequency devices, machine to machine, all using radio, Lord Kelvin, obviously, he didn't know what he was talking about. In fact, there we are. Here's another interesting one. Harry Warner was the gentleman that formed Warner Brothers Pictures. And look what he said. Who the hell wants to hear actors talk? Can you imagine if Big B couldn't speak, Shah Rukh Khan couldn't speak, Katrina Kaif couldn't speak? I mean, what ridiculous nonsense is that? I was looking at a film just the other day, seeing Srabanti, beautiful, wonderful lady. Can you imagine if she couldn't speak? The gentleman here would go crazy. I mean, she's such a beautiful girl, and, you know, people say she's got Zabardast, right? Wouldn't you agree? Okay, here is another one. Ken Olsen, the Digital Computer Equipment Corporation, a big competitor to IBM in the 1970s. Look what he said. Ridiculous. When you look at it with today's view. And the reason I'm showing you these slides is because many times what you think is impossible comes from creativity and innovation. And if there's one thing that people in West Bengal have, it is intellectual creativity and the ability to innovate in a really interesting way. Many times, though, when you are trying to innovate and create, you find that bureaucrats or people in the finance companies, the developing venture capital industry, are kind of like this, or maybe like this. Because like this, one of the things that you remember from this is people say no before they say yes. But that's why we're at such an important turning point, because if we can be in a position where it'll be easier to say yes, knowing that the possibilities can now stretch beyond what we thought about before, then there's nothing short of just saying "Kup halo," because in that way we know it's right, it's superb, it's the right thing. We don't want to hear about stop, we want to hear about start, because there can be very, very big consequences in the positive, beneficial way that can help grow Kolkata, grow West Bengal, and grow our community of innovators and creatives. And look at where these big consequences are hitting things. Publishing. When I was speaking to Mr. Purkayasta this morning, he was telling me about the increased circulation. India is one of the very few countries in the world where print circulation is up, publishing is up. But of course, young people are now resorting to seeing their publishing on their tablets and on their devices more than ever before. More than ever before, and we have to cater for that. Here's another area, telephony. Skype sold to Microsoft for $8 billion. And now there's a challenger to Skype. How many of you here in the audience have ever heard of OOVoo.com? OOVOO.com. OOVoo.com. It's worth taking a look at. That's like Skype dashed with some Viagra. Well, you can't, not Viagra, but it makes the telephony much, much more effective. OOVoo.com, it's like HD Skype. Why did they start that? Skype has already got 600-700 million users all over the world, but change comes very quickly. Disruption is now the language spoken by most of the young people who are developing things for our mobilized society. Music, of course, now changed completely different since iTunes. They just announced this morning they're now in 119 territories. They're not in India, but the leader in India is a company in Mumbai called Artists Aloud. It's owned by Hungama. Hungama, a wonderful company that also have BollywoodHungama.com, who were the founders of the modern mobile entertainment industry in India. And their Artist Aloud is giving iTunes, well, not a run for their money because iTunes are not in India, but are really showing that you can do things in India in a really interesting way using intelligence, creativity, and jugaad. Because you do use jugaad. Jugaad is a very good way that you can get things done in a special Indian style. So, we're in this information age, and in this information age, we're also in an age of innovation, we're in an age of disruption, and we're in an age of acceleration. Now, these three issues, innovation, disruption, acceleration, are you ready to deal with these things in your own business, in your own educational institution, in the work that you're doing, in the thinking that you're doing? Really important, because now, whatever can be information will become information. So here's an interesting thing, and an interesting quote. Is there any lady in the audience here who is afraid of a mouse? Is there anybody who is afraid, you're afraid of a mouse? Well, Alan Kay was not afraid of mice, and in fact, he loved the mouse so much, he created the mouse. Alan Kay was the inventor in Silicon Valley who created the mouse. So, madam, you said you were scared of mice, or you were scared of a mouse. I hope that you're not scared of this kind of mouse, because can you imagine what the world would be like if there was not a mouse? And so Alan Kay, who's a very well-established creator, inventor in Silicon Valley, he worked together with famous Silicon Valley intellect by the name of Vint Cerf, who's a senior advisor on Google's board and the real inventor of the internet. Sir Timothy Berners-Lee really created HTML afterwards, which really helped grow it. But Alan Kay said the best way to predict the future is something that everybody in West Bengal can potentially do. You can invent it. And what's happening now in the world of mobile innovation is that if you're in West Bengal and you can think of an interesting way that can be of value in your community, that brings in very important new ways to create. And just look at this here. Where people say, no, it cannot be done. You can't get the money for it. No, we're not going to get support. The bureaucrats are blocking it. Look at what Oprah Winfrey said, and isn't this true? I mean, here's the statement she made. This is true, don't you think so? I mean, wouldn't you agree that this is actually, you change the attitude, and all of a sudden, things are different. Like we saw in those videos a little early on with Dave, and the way that his life changed, and the way that things worked for him. So, I thought I'd give you a quick little showing of the difference between telecom thinking and internet thinking. One is value extraction, 14 telcos in India, and their goal is to drive data and to extract revenue and value out of their services. Internet thinking is more about creating value, and of course the mobile internet is something that the near 1 billion mobile users are increasingly going to become very, very much used to. Today, the mass audience in the rural areas that use feature phones, the smartphone revolution has just begun. Fantastic Indian companies like Micromax making a low-cost smartphone that's doing really well. This is something that is really going to continue to grow. So we mustn't think of telecom thinking. We mustn't think of internet thinking. We must think of ecosystem thinking. And all of you that are thinking of innovating, think of creating great ecosystems or something that can fit into an ecosystem. And one of the best, of course, is the most valuable company in the world, Apple. And look at the ecosystem that they've created. They want to create. So if you look top left, you'll see that they've got tools that can help make films, that can make music, that can replicate basically the democratization of production tools. They've got monetizable aspects where iTunes has now sold nearly 12 billion songs. An interesting thing, you know, Apple just this year so far have sold 600 million earphone sets. 600 million. In terms of consumption, they've got the iCloud, they've got the iPhone, iTV, and in terms of discovery, looking at the way that they blend in with Twitter and with Safari, their own set. So if you look at what they've got in terms of their ecosystem, they've created all of this so that they can also enhance the value of their products. And their products, although still a very small percentage in India, on a worldwide basis, they are the standard to which all other companies, Samsung, Nokia, and so forth, develop really interesting devices to try and catch up. And there's one fellow now, since the death of Steve Jobs, who's really the main thinker and visualizer of great Apple products, Jonathan Ive. He's 39 years old, and the Queen knighted him just this year. He's now Sir Jonathan Ive. He was the guy who created the iPod, the iPad, obviously working with the late Steve Jobs. And I once met him, and I said to him, how did you start in the business? Who gave you your biggest influence? What really stimulated the way that you invented such great products? And he told me that his father was a master silversmith. And when he was a young boy, he would spend a lot of time in his father's laboratory or in his workshop. And that's where he learned about aluminium surfaces, beautiful finishes, edging, all of that kind of thing. So if you hold an iPhone in your hand, and let me just pull one of my 3 phones out. I carry 3 phones, one for each ear and one for my mouth. But you look at the shape of this, Jonathan Ive is someone who really believes that something has got to be a great experience to feel, to see, to touch, because that will also really help just improve the performance of your life as well as the performance of the product. So, you know, the way that phones are changing people's lives, phone manushe jibonke palte dieche, very, very important. It's true. So, if you look at what this is today, and of course the phone that I just showed here is the new iPhone 5, much thinner. It's a new model, very interesting. But from 2007 to 2011, look at those different elements that developed into the ecosystem in that way. And as you can see, you've got cameras, you've got phones, of course, calculators, alarm clocks. Now, these things are very, very common. Every one of you carries a mobile phone, and no doubt those particular issues or those particular aspects are all in your mobile phone. What about this year, just 2012? How has that changed? And in fact, Professor Junjunwala and the very esteemed panelists in that first session highlighted some of these things, and look at some of the differences. Certainly now in North America, ticketing. Of course, you can buy your air tickets with your phone. You can also have your boarding pass with your phone. You can buy cinema tickets with your phone. If you want to see the new Amir Khan movie shortly, you'll be able to buy that and go into a multiplex to see it. Most important of all is mobile cash, mobile money, mobile commerce, and also mobile health and wellness. And why it's important about mobile money and mobile cash is because, believe it or not, and let me ask you a question, Which country in the world do you think is the leader in mobile money and mobile cash and mobile commerce? Anyone want to hazard a guess? India? Absolutely not. Anyone else? Louder? Where? Iran? No, not Iran. USA? Not USA. Kenya. Give that man a free iPhone. He's right. Kenya. Now, who would have thought Kenya? Yes, Kenya's got wild animals, both in the cities and in the jungle. But who would have thought that Kenya is today the leader? And the reason is, 3 years ago, the head of a Vodafone's company there called Safaricom got together with a group of banks to say, how can people pay for goods and services with minutes? If someone wants to buy a can of Thumbs Up, how can they pay for it point and click? As Professor Junjunwala said, near field communications. He got the banks together and they worked out if there was a way that someone buys minutes to top up their phone, the cash that they pay for their minutes goes to the phone company. If the phone company can work with the banks to arrange effective transfer and effective coding to do that, maybe this is the way to do it. And today, Kenya, 70% of the country uses M-Pesa, M-P-E-S-A, as the mobile system. If you're a mother with kids at school, you want to pay their school fees, no problem. You just send the money by your minutes. The minutes get translated to money, and that is the basis of mobile commerce. So when you think of it, here in West Bengal, how important it would be if you could pay for everything from the bus to goods at stores and small merchants and vice versa. This is one of the great revolutions. Secondly, mobile health and wellness. I'll show you a few examples. But right now, there's a big company in San Diego in California called Qualcomm. Qualcomm have been one of the pioneers in mobile health and wellness. Imagine this phone. A child has got juvenile diabetes. The child puts their finger on the phone reads through the surface of the skin of the child's finger, sends a text message to the caregiver, the nurse, or the parent saying the child needs a shot of insulin because the phone has read it through the skin of the finger. Senior citizens, they can take a phone, put it on their chest. It can read the vital signs and send a text message to the doctor. The Apollo Medical Group in Chennai, very advanced in looking at areas like this. And these are some of the things in 2012 that we are seeing the birth of, and which the iPhone and the other smartphone manufacturers are really taking advantage of. So, apnara ki notun janala diye kalker dunia dekte toiri? I say yes. So, let's look at some interesting trends, and let's have a look at stuff that would impress even people like Saurav Ganguly. These are some of the key trends. Convenience, which we spoke about in the first panel. Emerging markets and emerging needs and uses. Not functionality, but functionality. And something that is exceptional for everyone. And then also what they call in Africa the bottom of the pyramid. Sometimes economists call it the bottom billions. In India, we call it the mass market. Very, very important. Not ignored like they would have been in previous years, and certainly not in West Bengal today, where we have to make sure that the community gets uplifted with new technology. So, let's, before we begin this, let me have a look at another key trend is hyper-local. That's something that's extremely local. Let's say, for example, traffic is so bad in Kolkata when you've got to get in, even if there's not a test match at Eden Gardens. This notion of having some kind of application on your device that can tell you which roads are best to go into Kolkata if you're coming in from outside. Tribe factoring. If you belong to a consumer tribe, let's say you love cricket, you belong to the cricket tribe, you like a certain set of applications if you are in that tribe. Or let's say, for example, women, very important. You like fashion tribes like high heels or like interesting handbags. You've now got to manufacture for the tribes. So tribe factoring in mobile is important. Crowd express, the crowd sometimes decides on what is going to become popular. And the three key elements now for mobile innovation are always built on these bricks. And the bricks are mobile, social, and local, sometimes called mo-so-lo or lo-so-mo. It's kind of like sa-re-ga-ma, but it's mo-so-lo. Very interesting. Okay, and look at this. The lack of time will still feature high on consumers' agendas, with individuals happily spending money to save time on anything that makes things a bit faster, a bit more hassle-free, and a bit easier. Does anyone recognize that that is you? This is your life? Give me some more time. You know, they say that when you are on your deathbed now, you will say, I wish I had more time to check on Google. No, they don't say that. But today, in modern life, more time is what we need, and it's these conveniences that are driving a lot of applications. Here's another important thing. For ever-growing numbers of consumers in emerging markets like India, emerging on a very large scale, on a mass scale, mobile phones really can transform lives and aspirations. So, before we go into this, one of the things that I wanted to talk about was what can really transform things in India is jugaad. Now, when I first learned about jugaad, I wasn't really familiar with it. And some of my Indian friends in Mumbai said to me, but you know, if things say that they cannot be done, then of course they can be done, because in India, if you use jugaad, you can get anything done. Wouldn't you agree? So I then thought to myself, I'm coming to Kolkata for the very first time. I've got to try and think of some other words to describe jugaad, because jugaad is a way that you can really change things. Never mind the bureaucrats, never mind you've got no money, you come up with ideas. So I thought to myself, if you wake up in the morning and you say dimag ka dahi, and you want to end the day saying dimag ki bati, how do you bring in jugaad? So what do you think of these additional new words for new jugaad? And I want to see if anyone can come up with a new word, but a special Kolkata type of jugaad. Indovation, India, innovation, jugaad, not too bad. How about kaj kalao? Kaj chalao? That didn't get much of a response. How about kaj chalanor moto? Not too bad. Anybody got any ideas of a new word for, how about cultivation? Like Kolkata and cultivating jugaad. Anyway, I just leave this with you as a thought before we go into some of these examples, because really what we're trying to do is to show you things that are kup balo lakche. Okay, here we go. Let's have a look at some innovations. Here's one. QR codes. How many of you are not familiar with QR codes? Everyone familiar with it? Very important way that you can embed QR codes that really act as a funnel to get consumers and users to be able to effectively do things. This is a company, Scans, in Scandinavia, as it turns out, to capture your online presence with a QR code so that you can share QR codes with your friends. Let's go to the next one. Panasonic make a mobile app that controls television content. So you can come home and on your mobile phone without having to use a remote, you can use this Panasonic application for that purpose. Not too bad. Here's one in Sweden. Those of you that make products or in the product business where you've got to sell the products to consumers, they've got live salespeople demonstrating products online. So if you've got new improvements to your product, you don't have to wait for the brochures to be printed. Everything can be done with a faster speed. And information scarcity is a big issue in innovation. And this company called 3 Sweden, they have live people demonstrating online products. it means that you can maybe close your sale more quickly than if you didn't have that. So let's go to the next one. Here's Singtel. Singtel, the important Singapore phone company. How many of you knew that Singtel are one of the major shareholders of Bharti Airtel? So Singtel, they also own one of the biggest shares of the top Australian telco, very big company. They decided, using mobile innovation, to have an interactive retail space. So as soon as you walk in, if you're a Singtel customer, your phone starts interacting with stuff inside the store. It might say to you, the new mini iPad has just arrived, or the new Micromax phone has just arrived. We'd like you to try it out, or here's a new application for home use or health and wellness if you're trying to do something that can improve your health. And it's a new way, particularly with multiplexes and large-scale stores here in India. This is something I think you're going to start seeing a lot of in the next 6 to 18 months. In fact, how many of you are familiar with the Future Group here in India? Future Group, well known. The Future Group actually have, as one of their senior executives, a chief belief officer. What do you think a chief belief officer does in a retail company? His job is to dream up applications that can benefit the customer experience inside the store, and also keep the staff aware of what the mission of the company is to make the experience of shopping even better as retail becomes more and more competitive in modern-day India. Let's go to the next one. Here's a good one. Someone on the previous panel mentioned Angry Birds. How many of you have not played Angry Birds? The professor, you've got to play Angry Birds. It will improve your life, your sex life, everything. Well, maybe not your life. But let me tell you a story about Angry Birds. Angry Birds was invented, I just joke, of course, and I don't mean to offend you, but Angry Birds was made by a company in Helsinki, the capital of Finland. Finland is a small country, 5.3 million people, half the size of Kolkata, the country. So these four guys sat down in a room that was as big as this desk on the stage. Now, here's a question for you. How many times and how many games do you think they made? The company's called Rovio. How many games do you think they tried and made before they came up with Angry Birds? Anyone want to take a guess? Take a guess. Shout it out. 7 or 8? Any more? Any more? 40? 500? No, that'll be way too much. So 7, 40, anything in the middle of that? Say again? 21. Okay. Those of you who think it's 7, put up your hands. Just one person. Those of you who think it's 21, put up their hands. About 10%. Those of you who think 40, put up your hands. About 4%. Well, it was 41, the 41st game that they put out. So isn't it interesting? Most of you would have thought, well, maybe 15, maybe 20, maybe 25, 41 times. If at first you don't succeed, try again. One of the big things about startups and innovation is you've got to keep trying. Failure is just an invitation to get it right. So Angry Birds has now had over 1 billion downloads. These four guys in Helsinki are going to make a profit this year of about $600 million. $600 million for making games. You parents who try and get your kids into an IIT, you've got to get a career, be an engineer, be a doctor. Does any of you say, become a mobile games maker and make $600 million with a great game? So here's the life-sized version of Angry Birds that's played outdoors by public that come around the space outside a big building. Can you imagine this down J. Nehru Road here in Kolkata with people playing the big Angry Birds, and maybe it could be tied to a product. Maybe this is the kind of thing that would be good for ABP to think of for their own brands. Let's go to another example. Here's one. How many of you have lost your phone at some point in the past, or lost your computer, or there we are, there's a gentleman. Well, there's a new application called Beacon, or Beacon. Beacon is really what it stands for, B-I-K-N, that allows your device to ping you and you to find out where your device is. Very interesting. I don't know how many of you have lost your wife in a large crowd. I don't know if you can do that with your wife. Maybe you can get that application on her dress. And you might laugh, but you can now get wearable devices. So can you imagine getting a sari with Beacon built into the sari? You might want to lose your wife, but you will never be able to do so. Here's an interesting one, Motorola, an interesting application giving you some indication of health, wellness, and fitness. A portable device you wear on your arm that's linked into your Nike shoes. Because Nike have spent a huge amount of money on the development of electronics in the shoe that talks to your phone, your mobile phone, that also acts as a kind of personal telemetry that also gets your can tell you what your performance is, keeping fit, and also what you need to do as a minimum for basic fitness. So maybe this is something that someone like Jeet Ganguly can use, so that when he's performing, he knows if he's performing really well and performing with a lot of energy. Here's Airtel. This is actually here in India, which I don't know whether any of you have used this particular Airtel application. The Call Me Back application, very important, where the brand becomes a butler. And this is like a digital, electronic, mobile butler. Very important, but certainly this became a successful application for Airtel and made some money so that Sunil Mittal can be even wealthier than he is today. Here's an interesting one. People like free love, and not in the way that perhaps we think about it, but Google offering free access to Google Plus and YouTube in a partnership with an Indian Wi-Fi provider. So there you see a call center, but just giving free access to Google Plus on a device where you don't necessarily have a computer at hand is quite interesting to see. Here's another brand butler. Ford, the motor car company, have been one of the leaders in putting interesting mobile application and innovation into the car. Now, it takes 7 years from a blueprint of a car design to when it actually rolls off the assembly line. I think Nano was quicker, and it's such a pity that there couldn't be a factory for Nano in West Bengal, but that's another story, not for today. But what is interesting with Ford is that they're doing the following. In today's car that's now coming out of Detroit, on the sat-nav system in the front screen, you have you can get music like iTunes on the front screen that gets downloaded via Bluetooth on the speakers into the car, and you can have music. And in the back seats, behind the headrests of the front seats, are TV screens, and you can, from your sat-nav, download television or films onto the back screens for your kids or your auntie G or your granny sitting in the back who wants to watch some old movies from Calcutta, early days. Maybe that's the way. If you get a Ford, it's called Ford Sync, and you can do something like that. You know, it's so interesting. This morning when I went for a walk around the hotel, I saw this elderly man, and I went up to him, and I was just interested to find out what he thought about 4G. Because you've heard of 2G, 3G, and I went up to him and said, "Excuse me, sir, I have to give a speech this morning at INFOCOM. What do you know about 4G? He said, "You know, I know about Gandhiji, but I don't know anything about 4G. A little bit of a joke there. Not a bad reaction, not bad. So anyway, here's another interesting thing. When you saw in one of those films about the way that you can get your phone to make things work. Here's an interesting innovation, a wall-mounted washing machine that works with your phone. Now, how many of you here think that this might be useful in a city like Kolkata where it's difficult to find accommodation, and if you do get accommodation, it's quite small. And then you can use it with your phone, and maybe you will also get a special coupon on your phone with a QR code where you can buy washing powder and you get a discount on your washing powder if you use it for your wall-mounted, phone-assisted washing machine. That's quite an interesting one, don't you think? Let's look at the next one here. This is now becoming quite common, especially South America, where there's a lot of security issues in Brazil and Colombia, both important countries. The Lockatron, it's a mobile application, unlocks doors and grants access via smartphone. Today in the hotel industry, the modern hotels no longer use keys, they use smart cards that can also show them a record of when doors have been opened, and it's the same kind of technology, but one that also helps a lot. So let's say, for example, the ladies in the audience here, there are not all that many ladies. We'd like to see many more women in technology. Why are there not more women in West Bengal and Kolkata involved in technology? We need women's intuition, women's thinking, women's brains to really come up with interesting devices that have got local, social, mobile. I know ladies, very, very popular film star here in West Bengal is Dev. So people know? I see you don't think so. People tell me that he's the Bengali Shah Rukh Khan. Is that not correct? He is. He isn't. He is. The men say yes. The ladies say eh. Okay. Oh well, we tried. Here's an interesting one, ladies. Can you imagine if your kids get married, and of course, you know, you encourage them to have grandchildren for yourself. Here's one where Orascom, an Egyptian telco, and Mobilium, which is one of their telcos in Egypt, allows the scan of the baby to be transferred, the ultrasound scan to be transferred onto a mobile device. So you can imagine if you are a mother whose son and daughter recently got married, and 9 months later, hopefully it's not before, 9 months later, they announce that you're going to have a grandchild. They send a text message with this little clip of a picture of the ultrasound. Very popular application in Egypt. Very popular application. Who would have thought of that? But just interesting that the ultrasound scan would actually be transmittable. Here's a handset that's been developed by Nokia for developing countries for the mass market. It's one that offers, of course, mobile internet and gives you basically all the features of a smartphone, but that would be at a feature phone cost. So cost is very important with the bottom billions or the bottom millions, and so that's why this is important. Now, in China is a country that's only recently becoming more aware of what I call, and what is becoming so important, the creative industries. What are the creative industries? The creative industries: design, animation, film, advertising, anything where creativity helps create things, because China for years has just copied everything. Yes, they're good copiers. They need Indian jugaad, and they need Indian intelligence that gives them the design, and then they can make anything. And they can make it cheaper, and then they come and they try and compete with us here in India as well. Well, that's just commerce. You've got to, you know, competition is a good thing. But the reason I showed some of these handsets is that, of course, Micromax also gets some of their products manufactured in China. There's a young Indian man who decided he wanted to make a fortune in Africa, and he decided to introduce these kinds of phones you see in this slide, and he started a company called MyPhone, M-I-F-O-N-E. He's going to make 1.5 million phones in the next 12 months. It's taken off like crazy. Nigeria, Ghana, Tanzania. He decided he was going to make his fortune in Africa by what he'd seen Micromax doing in India. But the important thing about the creative industries is right here in Kolkata, the literary capital of India, the intellectual capital of India. It's time we speak to the government. We've got to speak to Dr. Mitra, the finance minister, say, Dr. Mitra, give us some money to develop the creative industries in Kolkata and in West Bengal, because that's how we can really grow a fast-moving IT industry in this wonderful part of the east of India. Now, here's something interesting. Point and know. How many of you here in the audience are familiar with augmented reality? 1, 2, I don't believe it, 3 people, 4, 5 people, 6. Have any more? It's like an auction. How many know about augmented reality? What is augmented reality? Well, this is what augmented reality is. Imagine that I was taking my phone like this, and I was standing outside Oxford Bookstore in Park Street, and I was looking down Park Street through my phone. What I would see, of course, would be Park Street and the street, obviously lots of traffic. But if I had this particular augmented reality application popping up on my screen, brought because of coordination with GPS, I would see these little banners on my screen. There's a theater, there's a flat for rent, there's a restaurant, there's a clothing store's got a special offer. Augmented reality is something that picks out from the GPS coordinates and places it into your phone. This is going to become very, very, very much used over the next 6 to 12 months, even here in Kolkata. So you've heard it here first. The 6 people that said they knew about augmented reality. The company in San Diego, Qualcomm, who have developed the video chip that is pretty much in every single mobile phone, have also developed this software for augmented reality. Here's another example of it. Autonomy, an English company, they actually developed, they have a company called Aurasma. Those of you who want to learn about augmented reality, AURASMA, aurasma.com. That will give you a very good example, because even if you have a brand or a product, you can have your product suddenly come to life using augmented reality. It allows users to create an augmented reality world around them. It sounds like science fiction, but it's here now. Okay, bottom of the pyramid, the bottom billions. Simpa Networks. This is a company that allows you to get pay-as-you-go electricity. So there's certain rural areas that might not have electricity, or electricity has to be metered. Your mobile phone will allow you to actually buy it with your minutes. Quite interesting, and certainly has a value in the communities that are perhaps severely underdeveloped and need to have community build-up, because wherever there is electricity, that's when we see that phones are changing lives in a good way. As we said, phone manushe jibonke palte diyeche. Thank you. So now, here's an interesting thing out of Africa. MedAfrica have got this mobile application, rich health information, and this is something that government of India is really keen on working on. Nandan, a very important feature going forward. Here's another important one. This is already happening in Bangladesh, where expectant mothers receive health information by text message, but of course smartphones will be able to make it even more with videos showing baby care, infant care, and husband care. Did I say husband care? Yes, that's what we need, ladies. Husbands here, there are only a few of you, but all of us, we really need to be taken care of by our lovely wives. See, they even gave you a round of applause. The woman is looking at me like, yeah. No, but it's true. Okay, let's have a look at another one, another bottom of the pyramid, BSNL. Everyone knows BSNL. Low-cost, high-performance tablet devices. There was a billionaire from Silicon Valley who decided what he was going to do was donate 1 million low-cost tablets to the Indian education system, provided, only one proviso, that he could program the device with some of his programming. That's okay. He still gave 1 million of these devices. And I was speaking to someone who works with Sam Petroda, who's the Prime Minister's advisor on innovation and technology, was saying that the goal, as Professor Junjunwala mentioned, is if we could provide every student at every school and every college with a low-cost tablet, that we could communicate with them, that would also help people's learning. It's a good way of learning. Big Indian companies like AppTech, well-known education company, looking at mobile applications specifically for this kind of use. Another bottom of the pyramid, where you can, people who like a double SIM card in a phone, but they don't want to open the back, take the SIM card out, put another SIM card in. You just shake it, bake and shake it, and you shake the SIM. An interesting application, Micromax, another idea from Micromax, creative industries, creativity, innovation, intuition, bringing in a way you just shake the phone and it shakes it into the next SIM card. Interesting or not? What do you think? Not bad. Not such a good reaction. Professor, I'm not getting such a good reaction. Okay, we've got to talk about that afterwards. Yes. Who is that, Koyel? Yeah. Good. Well, very good. Well, Shahrukh can do anything he likes in this country, that's for sure. But here, let's have a look at what goes on in the rural areas. Here is Nano Ganesh actually provides control of irrigation systems. How many of you have thought of how this is really agriculture being transformed? We'll quickly steam through the remaining ones. If you've got complaints about what goes on in Kolkata, why don't you get the mayor of Kolkata to bring in an application that allows complaints to be collected via hotline and mobile apps on Twitter? Here's one of my favorites. A German supermarket chain says if you go shopping in the nude and you register on your mobile phone, you'll get 50% off your grocery shopping. So here is a picture, I kid you not. Here is a picture of some people who took advantage of the mobile offer, went shopping in the nude in the supermarket and got 50% off. I think in terms of the clothing, they got 100% off, but in terms of the shopping, 50% off. And finally, the last application I show you today is something especially for the ladies in the audience. Ladies, put up your hands, please, so the gentlemen can see how many of you there are in the audience. Ladies, please put up your hands. They're very few, but ladies, tell me, is this cool or is this is cool? This is Fatifata. Fatifata. That's it. There's a fashion handbag that's got built into the construction of the handbag is a charging device. You just plug your phone in inside the bag, you go off and do what you need to do in town, and that gives you something. So, what is the takeaway from all of this, ladies and gentlemen, taking you through all of these different innovations, applications? Whatever can be turned into information will be. The new battles will be between the ecosystems. We've got to define new value control points. Near-field communication presents a new opportunity for carriers. So I'd like to just say thank you to all my new friends. I see you all as new friends. Thank you for giving me the opportunity of my dreams to come here. Shukriya, bahut dhanyavad. Thank you.